Bitmaps buzzing, it's time to learn. Education's key, now it's your turn. Builders speak up, sharing what's real. Open discussions, that's the deal.
So yes, this is the Bitmap Builders Spotlight, highlighting some of the creators and builders in this ecosystem. I am very proud and excited to have this conversation with our man Block9iNE, the 999 of nines, creator of Blicks. He's been a longtime community member, longtime builder, an audiophile, music head, and is doing some of the great work. So, Nine, how are you feeling today? Good to see you.
Good, man.
I
Yeah,
believe this
yeah.
is our first interview on camera, so things are moving up. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. How are you, brother?
Oh, good, man. Yeah, it's great to finally to get this out and actually get the ball rolling, creating some good content for the community, and yeah, just giving some stories and insights to what does be going on behind the scenes, the madness from a builder's perspective. And yeah, thanks a million for your time, man, and all the contributions you've given already to Bitmap through Bitmap News and everything else that you've got going on. So yeah, it's great to connect, man. It's great to actually sit down and make this happen.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. I feel like we've been in the long haul together. We connected pretty early on. Like I said, you've been working on Blicks for a long time, left us in mystery. But I'm going to start asking you a few questions. We'll get to Blicks, but we'll just start off with the first cooker. What the fuck is a bitmap to you, Nine?
There's a long answer and a short answer. I think the short answer is it's an ordinal. I think that's a self-explanatory one. And then what attracts me to bitmap is what is a bitmap is it's this concept that we have a collection, a digital collection that mirrors the Bitcoin blockchain. And to me, what's important about that is we have blocks and we have transactions, and it's like a root system that mirrors Bitcoin's blockchain. And to have that in an ordinal form in a collection is it's super powerful as an infrastructure to build upon. We've never seen anything like this before. So to me, Bitmap is a root system. It's the infrastructure in what we will build the future digital world economy and collectibles, art, infrastructure. Everything will be built on top of that. So that's a it's a big thing, you know, to have something so expansive, especially in a kind of market where an ordinal to a lot of people is a profile picture. It's an item from a digital collection and mainly art. So the fact that we have this collection that mirrors every transaction and every block that has ever existed on Bitcoin and that will ever exist on Bitcoin, it's super rare. It has never happened before. It will never happen again. It's a once in a lifetime situation. It's a phenomenon. And it's a builder's paradise. It's a playground for expansive development beyond the human comprehension.
I love it, man. The short and the long of it. Yeah, it's an ordinal, but I love the concept, and I fully agree. As a root system, as like a foundational layer uh, of communication, of interaction.
Yeah.
So that's great, man. And yeah, these interviews, as again, folks, our first official interview here at Bitmap News. I'm really excited, maybe a little nervous. It took us a while to get going, but we can just sort of roll right into it. As the creator of Blicks, can you give us a breakdown on what you're building? Give us like the short and long of Blicks, what it means.
it's long. I don't think there is a short. I suppose the short would be Blicks is a music thing. Um, and the long to that is, I guess it would be why Blicks. And for me as a music creative, I've spent I spend the most of my life in professional music industry. I've seen a lot of things within the music industry that I believe don't have to be the way they are. And that's the why to Blicks. Is it identifying and addressing those things, those pain points within the music industry, and using blockchain technology to soothe some of those pain points and to unblock them, get rid of the bottlenecks so that we can arrive at a place of free expression. And I believe that the current economy in which we distribute, create, and manage our music as a format, or as a form, I believe that we as artists, as creatives, are penalized through the setup of the music industry and the process in which you have to follow in order to make it within the music industry. So I seen an opportunity when Spotify first came out many moons ago. I was a little bit too young at the time to actually make something tangible happen. Um, so I've always seen blockchain as a solution for what could be, and we've arrived in a moment in time now, I believe, where we need a fix. And me personally, at the core, what I would like to see is free expression, being at the forefront of creative art. And it's not what we have at the moment. We have what I would call a secretly rendered list, which is kind of compiled by opportunists who are fiscally playmaking in order to better the outcome for their own pocket, for through greed, and through power. So when I look at music and art, I see that as a personal relationship. I see it as the doing of the thing, as opposed to the commodity in which we consume after the doing. Um, and I see an opportunity for us to change the direction in which people create, distribute, and manage their artistic careers, while keeping it 100% independent, and not needing to comply to gatekeepers, and the systematic setups in which we see. For anyone who's involved in music, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And for anyone who doesn't, you just have to look at any other controlled industry, Hollywood as a side angle, a side subject, to see what kind of corruption could exist within a network like that. So that's the why of Blicks. So with Blicks, I'm aiming to provide a decentralized solution for independent recording artists to be able to take back control of their careers, to make decisions based on what they and their supporters would like, and to get rid of this idea of complying to a system in order to again make it. Um, and one of the goals, personal to me, is to break down the idea that creatives and music creatives, that are on a pedestal. And up until this moment in time, that's how we have seen music creatives, as people above us, people we idolize, we spill our hearts and souls into, we want to be like, and I do think that does more negative than good in the world. And I think Blicks can bring society or culture to a spot where we break that pedestal down and we create art on a playing field without these fake constructs.
Let's go. I like how you start with the why for Blicks.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is really just, in a sense, taking kind of the powers that are granted within Bitcoin and bringing it over to the music industry or the creative artistic side of things. You know, the permissionlessness aspect, the peer-to-peer aspect. Um, and you said you've been building it sort of in response to a lot of these issues you've seen arise. Do you want to just reflect a little on your music career, or like the experience you've had with that and some of the like the pain points specifically you've seen?
Yep. Yeah, I have to be smart how I say this stuff, because being anonymous is important to the goal of breaking down pedestals. Because
You're not
prior to
Kanye,
Bit,
are you?
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Con B. um, it's like, yeah. Sorry, can you just rehash that question?
Just like in your experience, because you sort of brought up like the challenges that you're sort of hoping to answer, the problems we're attempting to fix in the creator economy. And then just maybe like through your experience, what are some of those larger ones you've seen? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. So like there is a blueprint to make it in most creative industries. It's a pathway. There's a route. There's levels and steps and stages. And within that journey, there's gatekeepers, and there's certain particular things that need to be done in order to get through those gates. And within that process, I believe that the form of the artist's expression changes, and it adjusts to the market, right? And as a result, the output of art is different. So I believe that if we can redefine what the pathway is in alternative music industry, well, then we can get rid of these bad energies and these bad roads within the career of a music artist. I can give you a small example. Would be a music artist, for example, they've got to record, right? They've got to create content. They've got to create art. So there's costs to that. And over the last decade or so, it's become super, super cheap and feasible to create art at a low budget and a high quality. But as a result, there has been new mediums in which one needs to go through in order to be considered a success. Um, there's a lot of envelopes paid. How do you put it? It's like there's a lot of contributions need to be made fiscally to certain gatekeepers in order to get through the barriers. Like the basic one back in the day was radio stations. You would pay a fee, your label would pay a fee in order for an artist to be put on an A list, which means that they get like 4 to 5, 6 spins per rotation within the radio's playlisting. And as things have evolved and radio has lost its power in the attention economy, well, now we have playlisters who are working as third parties as a layer on top of Spotify. So music artists they need to pay a sum of money in order to get placement on these playlists. And it's not cheap. You can pay cheap and get no traction, or you can pay the big dogs as the music industry sees them, and you get a lot of attraction, but it doesn't convert. It's not sticky marketing, so it doesn't. You need to keep paying in order to keep the stickiness, in order to keep your monthly listeners up, in order to keep the facade that you're a current um, relevant artist within the world of music. So it's all a facade, and even your top artists like Beyonce and The Weeknd and Drake and Taylor Swift, these artists are forging numbers through playlisters, and through farming streams. And it's a very known thing now within the music industry. So from my perspective, and my insights, the music industry isn't going up and it's not going down. It's going sideways, and it has been going sideways for near enough to a decade now. And the party's over. And I think the only thing stopping music as an art form from like transcending past what we believe to be, or what was, is alternative routes, alternative paths, um, that aren't based around greed. They're not based around this pedestal situation. Um, that's one kind of long-winded example. Um, there's a lot to it. You've got to. I released music in the past. I left school very, very young, and I was in a band. I toured around Europe, and we done some high profile stuff. We signed a record deal to BMG in Germany, and there's a certain route that we had to take in order to get what was called success. And it's fake, it's not real. But people in my life have memories of me personally being a successful musician. And from my perspective, as somebody who was in the role, it wasn't success. It was paid. It was marketing. It was being forced to use certain publishing companies so that you could get connected to other people in media. Um, there's certain people you need to brown envelope. There's a lot of this, in the music industry. There's certain people you need to brown envelope in order to even get into particular rooms, to get on main stages of events, where it's all about being paired up with these other artists in order to give the perception that you're making it, right? So with all of that, I've spent the last maybe 8 years of my life just breaking this stuff down, figuring it out, trying to replace the middlemen, systematically using blockchain technologies in a way that's trustless and doesn't involve a human pressing that button or opening that gate. So that's brought me to where we are today. And that's what Blicks aims to do, is to remove the middleman, is to create an economy directly with an independent artist and their supporters in a trustless environment hosted on Bitcoin, and that will live forever and is fully transparent. So anyone who wants to do an audit, do it. And you can't do that today with today's music industry. And it's a shame, because it taints the output of artistical expression. And to me, that's the most important thing, is to ensure that moving forward, that we keep that as pure as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, man, beautifully said. Appreciate again you sharing all this experience with us and taking the time. People get a little insight as to your journey, what you've been cooking, and more importantly, why you've been doing it, what's led you to here. Yeah, it's this sort of the Web3 mantra, right? It's that ownership idea. It's about being in control of your IP, of breaking through again that permissionlessness. Nobody's got to tell us that we can come through. Nobody's got to give us the okay to sell stuff to our collectors or to even be highlighted. So man, it's great. It's like it's trad fights, right? It's like trad music moving away again as we're all moving forward. So that brings me to my next question, sir. How would you say this all ties into our beloved bitmap? Since, you know,
Okay, so if you if you take the analogy again of one collection that is blocks and transactions, right? The vein system, the root system. So to build upon that root system is the opportunity. So through my experience of putting this together, there was a point when Bitmap came into the picture, and prior to that, what it looked like was that we had a tool that was directly for independent artists, but it was a silo. It was like a super application for an artist, right? And then with Bitmap, because it mirrors Bitcoin in the way it does, it means that we can scale that solution to the masses, to the many. And the fact that it's decentralized, it's permissionless, it's Bitmap is like the biggest example of all of those things. It means that that we can have this forever system that's forever scalable. It's always going to have space for new artists. It's always going to facilitate users to come. And the whole concept of parceling, which is the transactions on a block being its own possible entity, it means that these silos, which we can now put into a bigger network, they can build upon with their fans, support, business affiliates, in a way that the network ties together. So we can build essentially a new music industry that lives on top of Bitmap, which is Bitcoin's blockchain. And it's like that was the big eureka for me personally, because I had hit some brick walls in regards to how can I scale this. Because let's take an example. Let's say Bitmap never happened. It's out of the picture, and we wanted to do this. So there would be a team of people needed to onboard individual artists. There would be an onboarding process, the cost of acquisition, and there would be a lot of resources needed to take on a new artist, and bring them into the system. So the fact that we have this network, which is Bitmap, right? The fact that we have that, it means we can build in a way that's permissionless to the sense that you don't have to come to me to say, yo, I wanna fuck with that thing that you're doing, right? You just have to have the token from that network, which would be a bitmap, and then that gives you the power as a creative to build it out in whatever way you see fit for you, for your supporters, and whatever ecosystem you want to put together for that. Um, and the power of Bitmap is that it all remains, all of those individual decisions that like I make as an artist, you make as an artist, they're different decisions, but they all fall into the same network. So as we build the new layers, or the layers of the new music business, it's we've never had anything like that before, you know, where we can expand at a massive level at it in a way that's so individual to the particular artist or creative. And There's no centralized entity who is managing that, who is defining or saying what that is. And that's the power of Bitmap. That's what Bitmap brought to the equation. And I think a lot of people they haven't tapped in on this yet with Bitmap of how expansive it can be. And this is just music we're talking about, Tornado. Like this can be any industry. You know, one Bitmap can serve me as an artist to do music. It can also serve me as a videographer. It can serve me as an explorer. You know, there's so many different industries that can be put on top of this. So it's not like there's one use case for Bitmap. It's like with such a vain system, we can take whole industries and build on top of what is Bitmap, and we get to tap into all of the benefits of Bitcoin, of Bitmap, of a trustless, decentralized network. And yeah, that's the kind of that's what Bitmap brought to the table.
Man, actually, zooming out, I love this perspective. Because yeah, it's this massive network of ordinal collectors. Say it's a community that taps in by default. The idea is interoperability. They exist within the sort of same parameters, and if you could integrate what you're building into this sort of pre-established network, then yeah, it just seems like a natural influx of people coming into their own IP, coming into their own creation, or if they're a collector, it kind of helps them step outside of the traditional frameworks.
Yeah,
Yeah, via bitmap.
yeah, exactly, man, exactly.
This is great, man. Gosh damn it, I love it. So let me ask, simple, easy questions. What have been some of the biggest challenges you've had uh, building
In
this out?
life.
Yeah, in general. No, to start from 5, the plight of an Irishman.
um, Challenges. I think one of the things that just creeps to the forefront is information. So even within our small space, there's a lot of gatekeeping of information, and I think that for me personally is a big challenge because I'm quite open with helping and well, this is the way that I done something. So maybe me telling you can help you or inspire you to do better or layer up on that.
Oh no, there you are. We're
We're back.
back.
We've got a timer on the camera here. Apologies for that. Um, but yeah, so gatekeeping of information is a real thing. I think a lot of it comes down to trying to create hype and FOMO. So we give less information and get people excited, and that's been a challenge. When you're on an exploration of discovery and trying to understand new technologies and ways to do things, and just systematically how it all works. Because with a lot of this stuff, you have to figure it out in its entirety, and then you can find out what you can do on top of that to bend the reality of the technologies. So that's been super challenging, for sure. Probably above all, that would be the most challenging. Yeah.
I mean, and that makes sense. Uh, Gatekeeping of information, a little less so nowadays, I would say, just with our access to AI and the way people some of the people are building, in a more open source manner. But there's a lot of competitiveness, right? There's a lot of, in a sense, there's a lot of competition. People who are building do tend to hide things. I mean, Blicks, not to call you out, but it's a little secretive. Um, but yeah, it's kind of that dance, right? Like as you're building something, you want to share a little, but you also want to keep a little private. But that makes it challenging when you're building something new, like you're saying, when you have to really understand it or explore it to its entirety before you can start building the
Yeah.
walls, right? You got to know the size of the land, etc. There's certain things you have to take into part that if you ignore in the beginning might turn around, come around to bite you in the butt. No, I just got to ask you some of these wonderful generic questions on our first ever interview. Ah,
Yeah, it is true though. Just to chime back in on that, AI can help an awful lot in regards to getting to the root of information for sure. But that's only a relatively new thing that people are using as a tool to get there. And like I won't name any projects or anything, but I have been chasing so many people within our small space to just try back engineer some concepts, and you would be surprised how many people just it's almost like they want to give you information to demonstrate that they know something, but they don't want to give you clear information, so you're left having to source multiple pieces of information and then trying to back engineer how something was done. And I find in most cases that is actually how you get to the crunch of things within our space. But as we've been evolving through the last couple of months, especially, I find that there is a unity happening, and there's a lot of developers who are now coming together. But I think that's only independent developers actually who are doing that. And I think the bigger players or the bigger entities, they're gatekeeping the information to give them a first mover advantage. And I don't think that helps the space as a whole. And I think that type of behavior should be kept to centralized economies, and not decentralized open economies.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little against the ethos of what people are building. It makes sense. Again, it's a competitive market. People are always trying to get their bags and figure out, how things can benefit them. But I've definitely noticed that sentiment, leak a little of dev alpha, not too much, figure it out yourself kind of advice. Um, but also at the same time, a group of bitmappers coalescing around this idea. I feel some of that competitive edge has started to be less visible, um, kind of while everyone's realizing where we are with Bitmap, how it's this long path and that building isn't going to
Yeah.
be next month, and that you might as well not try to rush something because there's a good chance it might not work or it might not be interesting. It won't catch the right attention.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're definitely bursting through those points, but I think it's because more independent developers are coming into the space. And from my experiences, they're the people who really want to sit down. Like I give you an example. I sat on the phone with Bop only a couple of days ago, and we're just after Christmas, but we sat on the phone for a good lengthy time, back and forth, sharing information. And the nut of the conversation was, Bop, how can I service you in this? And how can you service me so that we can better service the rest of the community? And that was the first real time I had a like a conversation that was above both of us, and it was for the benefit of everybody else. And I've figured out some stuff technically. He's figured out some stuff technically. And it's like if we can put all that together and 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 let that rain down on everybody else who's trying to figure out stuff, um, it creates a certain vibe on the dance floor, and people generally tend to follow suit. That's one of my goals, is that information is more freely accessible within the space. And that's definitely something. I know you said nobody knows what Blicks is, and that's that's purposely the reason, because of the music industry is such a corrupt organization. So confidentiality of private info or sensitive information at such an immature stage is part of the plan. It actually has to be that way. But anybody who's building within the space, they'd vouch for me on this. I've helped everybody who has come to me with any sort of any sort of blocker that they're having technically, and in some cases I would try go and figure out the solution for them, because I do see that as being the brand in which new developers should be introduced to within the space.
Collective is the alpha, man. That's what I say over and over. Like there really is
Yeah, man.
a massive brain power in the Bitmap community. Great to hear uh, stories like that
Yeah,
with someone like Bob, well respected, someone like you, well respected builders. When you can connect those things together or just building on top, stacking on top of each other,
yeah,
stacking tech is really, it's kind of how I view this moment in time for Bitmap. Is like
yeah,
we're figuring these things out. No one knows for sure, but we see these advancements come along that people can expand on, can build upon, and yeah, it's just really cool. It's super empowering as a community. There is I
yeah,
don't know.
man.
There isn't anything else like it. That's for sure.
Absolutely agree.
And I have here, what have been your biggest successes or your best successes to maybe highlight some of that? And don't forget, we can always edit this interview, you know, later on. But just kind of, what
Bitmap
any
raw.
big breakthroughs?
This is the raw version. I mean, can't edit. We can't edit anything but our past. No, I'm joking. Biggest successes. Um, Again, generally in life, or in the space, or
My mic's still on. I mean, I kind of with what you're building, like just some of the breakthroughs. Or how about this? We can pivot on that. Do you have any advice for other builders out there that are making stuff, trying to build on Bitcoin or maybe within Bitmap?
yeah. Connect with people. One thing that I done this time last year, I made a New Year's resolution to connect with two new people every single week, and what that meant was to have a conversation. And prior to that, I was not shy, but I was shy of the idea of actually jumping on a phone call, or jumping on a screen share with somebody and just bashing back and forth. But now it's a religion, and I connect with two new people every single week. And I would advise anybody in the space to do that, because for me personally, it's enabled me to network outside of the circle in which we show up for every day. But it's created new opportunities, and it's given me access to information that I wouldn't have found otherwise. Um, yeah, definitely network, like, and that's not just for developers. That's like for anybody in the space, like. And that might mean just showing up to Bitmap news space and talking once every week or two, and just like listening to the panel. And if there's new faces coming in, drop them a DM. Hey, bro, I liked your perspective on that there. Um, let's jump on a call and go a bit deeper. And the amount of times I done that, Tornado, and it led to breakthroughs of discovering kind of ways to do things, or things that like maybe I haven't got as far as in the process, and it forces you into that pocket of information where you start discovering and expanding on your field of view within the space.
That's what's awesome. Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. Uh yeah, connection with people. Pull up the Bitmap news. I think that's great. Cold calling artists, reaching out to folks that you admire, or you enjoy the perspective, or maybe they're building something that you want to learn more about. But sound advice, Nine. Sound advice. How can the Bitmap community support you? What can we do for Blicks?
Already happening. I've got I have a fucking savage community. Like, from the Genesis 9 to the 9 gang to the Blicks members only. Like, that's my army, and divisions of the army. And it's like everybody who can do anything is already doing it and is in place, and we're doing it. And we move in silence. So the people I'm talking about, they know who they are. Um, we move in silence, and the gate's always open for more people to come in. So if anybody is interested in leaning in closer, like just drop me a DM or shoot me a message, and f- links are everywhere to come into the community. Head over to Discord, and just get involved. And it's like, get involved for your own interest. It's okay to not be interested and not support, you know. But if you are interested and you think it's something that can benefit you, well, then lean in, and that's the best thing, because we don't really need a dance floor of people who are not interested. That's what I've been really strong about, is recruiting the right people to ensure that when we do push the wooden horse into the main stage, that it has an impact, and only passion can have that impact. So if people want to support, just lean in. That's all. There's everybody is doing what they should be doing right now. Um, and yeah, and it's something I'm super grateful of. And I'll bring it back to your last question. Successes, to me, that's one of the biggest successes, is being able to build such a tight community, um, within our space, um, just off the narrative of it's a music thing, and to have people's trust within that, and have people showing up daily, helping orchestrate things, helping do things behind the scenes. That's the biggest success, actually.
Let's go, Blicks Army. Yeah, and congratulations on everything you've built, man. I know you've been grinding for a long time, putting the work in, and most everybody in the Bitmap community is excited for when these things shall be revealed, when we're able to enter the Blicks world. Yeah, for the listeners, make sure you're following this gentleman, the Block9iNE Blicks. I believe it's Blicks on BTC, but those will be in the show notes. An absolute legend in the community, always there with a cold take or a hot one. Uh, what about, and we might have touched on this, but I'll say anyways, what about Bitmap sort of excites you the most? Maybe to recap.
Mm, you know, there's so many things, man. What excites me the most? What a question. None of it. So, I, I, I think,
Edit. No.
no, I think the fact that like everybody within the Bitmap community, we're building from the ground up, and that's something like an observation of mine, because I came into blockchain space, started building in Ethereum on Solidity, through smart contracts, and there was never really this culture of building from the ground up. It was like a very clear vision in my head was people celebrating an art win while on local transport going through a city with real problems, real homelessness problems, real drug problems. And I think for a long time I spent my time in the blockchain space, like as a lone soldier, with this idea, like, of, am I the only one in this space who thinks this way? And until Bitmap came along, um, to me that was proven to be true. But since the birth of Bitmap, I there's hundreds of people that I could think of now who have the same ethos, the same way of thinking, and that to me is like, that's the cheese. That's like what excites me the most. The fact that we have all of this passion, and it's not passion. It's not passion for profit. It's passion for progress. But yeah, bro, it's a passion. Like, you don't see it. You don't see that in any other industry. Um, and I honestly had nearly given up hope that, like, when I first seen blockchain as like, I seen it as an actual solution. Nobody else did. Everybody was. I remember, I know people who made millions of selling art collections on Ethereum. Good artists, but that's what it was all about, was just making money. And like, if you didn't make the millions, well, then your next thing wasn't going to be a hit. So they needed to like really fucking ram it down your throat for the next thing to be a hit. But that doesn't exist within the bitmap space. It's just all about elevating each other and creating this bond of like consciousness, you know, a collective bond of consciousness that just gets bigger and bigger. And I think anybody who spent more than 6 months in the space knows exactly what that is. And that's the magic. And that's what I believe people outside of Bitmap who are actively in our space, in the ordinal space, they can't figure out why Bitmap. But that's the reason. That's why. It's passion for progress.
You nailed that one, Nine. You absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
Yo, so our interview's coming to a close. I got a couple of rapid fires. And again, I so much appreciated your time. So glad that we could do this together as our first official video interview, sir. What's your favorite color and why is it orange?
It's actually not orange.
Oh,
I'm an honest person, bro. That gets me in trouble an awful lot on the timeline. But my favorite color is purple. And I don't know why, but it's been a color that has stuck with me like forever, right? I've always been fascinated by colors and shapes. I will reveal I have a Twitter profile from before Bitmap, and I was documenting the whole process of what I was building, which is now Blicks. And you'll see it's high influence of colors and shapes. So it's always been a big thing in my head. So that's why it's just wild that Bitmap is colors and shapes. It's crazy, but the short answer is purple. It's my favorite color.
fair enough. I love it. And when Bitmap hits 5K, what are you doing?
5K floor price?
Yes, sir.
I don't know, man. Probably make a coffee and do a bit more code.
Perfect. No rest. No rest.
No,
and
I'm not sensitive to the price. You know, if I was 9.bitmap would have been sold by now, and I would have been on a horse somewhere on the mountain. But that's not the motive or the intention within this whole mad experience.
Nope. Staying pure to it, man. I love it. I got to throw
Yeah,
you a
man.
curveball every now and then. And lastly, to finishing out, I'm getting eyes from the missus. Do you have a spirit animal?
Ooh, spirit animal. Not really as such. Like, I am an animal.
Facts.
a mountain animal. Spirit animal. No, not really, man. No, I don't even think I have a favorite animal. I like love animals. I'm vegetarian. There's a nugget of information. So I'm sensitive to the animal world. But there's no one particular animal that I resonate with. It's just in general. The last 3.5, 4 years, I've been best friends with donkeys. So every day I go down and chill with the donkeys and bring them apples, and yeah, you know, I go through some things in life and I go down and chill with the animals. So, but there's not one in particular that would jump out as a spirit animal, you know.
Fair enough, man. I thought I would try. Well, look, Nine, that wraps us up for this interview. Thank you so much. Can't wait to edit it and shoot it out to the folks. Again, thank you for your time. Happy that we could make this connection and have the first interview out here. Again, go check out the comments to follow our man Nine and his project Blicks. Absolute legend. And hop into the spaces. Find him. Reach out, like he said. Thanks for watching, guys. Nine, we'll see you in the future, sir.
Thank you for your time, Tornado, and thanks to everybody in the community for showing up. And yeah, let's just keep it going.
Bitmaps buzzing, it's time to learn. Education's key, now it's your turn. Builders speak up, sharing what's real. Open discussions, that's the deal.